Hi, I'm Shroom Daddy. And let's face it, this is the tripping channel. We're not going to be able to deny it too much longer. But it is the tripping channel. How am I, what am I going to do about that? It is what it is, and it is the tripping channel. Okay? And in case I haven't mentioned it yet, I am Shroom Daddy. Now, if you have seen other videos of mine besides this one, I'm often zany and enjoying myself and enjoying life and loving life and enjoying the moment and enjoying everything and enjoy, love life, love life, love life. But what happens though in between trips is I only trip once a month. Well, sometimes every three or 4 weeks now. And I don't microdose by choice. I do think that everyone should microdose. I mean, everybody should microdose mushrooms. The world would be a really much better place if it did. The more people who do, the better the world is going to be. That's a promise. But in the meantime, I don't microdose. I like to trip all weekend long. And so I need to make sure that my body is exhausted of any previous benefit from the mushrooms. So the benefits last beyond the weekend. It depends on what's going on in my life and how I'm doing. Sometimes they last as long as 3 weeks if things are going well in my life. If things are not going well, it can just be a few days. But I have chosen to do it this way. And that means that until my mushroom weekend comes, the effects will have worn off. And I am going to have to trudge through life as it presents itself to me. And that is usually with a huge dose of depression and an enormous desire to kill myself or to just die. I don't have to kill myself. I just want to die somehow. I just want to be dead. I want to no longer exist. I want death, sweet death. I want it so badly. In between when when the benefits have finally worn off and before I've had my next trip, there's always, you know, I just want to die so badly. But so, there are a lot of reasons to want to kill yourself. So sometimes what helps is to think about what's here and reasons not to kill yourself. And so I came up with a few that I thought I would share with you. These are things that run through my mind sometimes. Back in the old days when I really wanted to, when I was a teenager and was seriously flirting with death and harming my body, one of the things that, one of the reasons to stick around is just out of mere curiosity. You say, okay, if I end it all here, I will have solved my problems and I find out if there's an afterlife or not. But there's always this curiosity of like, okay, now, what if I stick around? Let's just see what happens. You never know. That's one reason. Now, very good reason is that no matter how miserable you are, and no matter how miserable your life is, it will make so many people sad if you kill yourself. The sadness of the people you will leave behind will be profound. Someone will have a guilt trip that it's their fault, that they could have saved you, that if they just had looked for the signs, they would have been able to help. So by taking your own life, you're handing over your grief to other people. You're exiting the world, but your grief is staying behind, and everyone else has to live with it now. It's a little bit selfish, I guess, when you think about it that way. I also want to say I completely respect your decision, whichever decision you make, if you're at that point. So I really get wanting to end it. Believe me, I get it. But you'll make so many people sad if you do. Another thing is the trauma of the person who finds you dead. That's going to affect them for the rest of their lives. It's going to cause a deep scar in their life that they're most likely will never get over. Maybe if they do a lot of therapy, they'll be able to. So you, by killing yourself, are inflicting that trauma on someone else. And you might not even know who it's going to be. So there are wonders of the world that you'll be leaving behind. There is a lot. There's too much about the world I don't like. I I hate the world sometimes. But there are also amazing things about the world. And it's this it seems to be our responsibility to figure out how to reconcile the two things. Life is hard. Life is so fucking hard for everybody. For most people, and probably is hard for people that you think it's not hard for. I think it's hard for everybody. We all go through all the same emotions, and it's a struggle. And some of us are able to transcend the struggle and learn to dance with life, and it can be done. And it's where we all want to. It's where we should all want to go, I think. And it can be achieved. For me, it can be achieved without being on mushrooms. I've done workshops where I've gotten to the same space, the same results. But mushrooms are a shortcut. They just take you right there. Anyway, so the amazing things about the world. It's amazing to me that our bodies function independently. That food and the sun are the things that give us life. I don't usually think of how each piece of food I eat contributes to how you feel. But once I had a really, really, really bad case of food poisoning to the point that I was barely eating anything. I was just laying in bed, merely existing, and not really doing much more than that. I had zero energy and zero appetite. It was the worst. I've had food poisoning before, but this was the worst it ever was for me. It usually would last only 2 or 3 days, and this was at least 6 or 7 days. But eventually the poison passes through your system and you begin to eat again. And that is when you see how much each little bite of food affects you. You may only have the energy and will to eat one little tiny piece of a banana, for instance, just one bite. But then you see how that one bite affects you and sustains you. You've eaten like nothing for a few days, and then you finally have the energy for a bite of banana, and you can feel how it affects your body, how it wakes it up. And when you're at that point that you can tell a difference in how you feel from just a single bite of food, then you realize that all of the food you're eating, when you're eating regularly, is sustaining you in ways that you don't usually think about. Then, as you eat more and more and come back to life, you see that direct connection between what you put into your body and how you feel. So the relationship between our bodies and the food we eat is amazing to me. And the reliability of food as pleasure. When you're really depressed, sometimes food is the only pleasure you have. So get something that you really like and eat it as slowly as possible to stretch the pleasure out for as long as you can. It's amazing to me that the sun and the planets are seemingly floating in space. That the reason we have night and day is because the earth is turning, and in daylight we're on the earth while it's facing the sun, and at night the part of the earth we're on is facing away from the sun, and that the shift happens because of the rotation of the earth, and that the shadows we cast are long or short depending on the angle that the earth is to the sun. These might be things you already knew and maybe you took it for granted a long time ago, but I personally tend to be amazed at things we already know about. It's amazing to me that humans have the ingenuity to figure things out. We figured out how to make cars run. We figured out electricity and how to make lights. We figured out computers. The potential for those things always existed. But the building blocks of what we know and learn led to those things. So from the time the earth began, the potential was already there. It was there all along, but we discovered it. Human ingenuity is amazing to me. It's amazing to me that we can speak to each other on phones. That I can be in one part of the world and you can be in another part of the world. And we can talk to each other at the same time. That, that blows my mind. Which makes it amusing to suggest to someone that two minds on opposite sides of the world could be connected, and to have that person poo-poo that idea and say that it's impossible, and then you just have to remind them, yeah, but phones. And in the old days, when people were all connected with wires, they would say, but the wires are connecting them. And you say, but it's still standing on opposite sides of the world and being connected. And if they still would have said, yeah, but wires don't count, well, now it's all wireless. And even before the internet, even when phones were connected, we still had television. It was amazing to me that sound and vision fly through the air, connecting from one device to another. So why then is it still so hard to believe that our minds are connected when we've already proven that things are connected in invisible ways that our eyes can't see? It's amazing to me that identical twins came from the same fertilized egg that split in two, so that they were originally the same person. And yet they are now two entirely separate individuals. It's amazing that any kind of seed, whether the seed of a human or a plant, holds within it everything that person or plant will physically become. That our ears, our eyes, our skin, our bones, every part of our body that you can think of starts out as something all bunched up into something so small that you can't even see it. And that in order for it to unfold and grow, it takes things that are already in the world in order for that to happen. Food, water, and nurturing. So I do not blame you if you want to kill yourself. I understand the pain inside. I understand the feelings of hopelessness and despair, because I feel it on a regular basis. But it's also amazing that whatever the problems are in the world, the solutions are here also. For me, mushrooms are the solution to the pain and despair and hopelessness. It's amazing to me that something that grows out of the ground has the direct ingredients needed to turn those feelings of hopelessness and despair around. And I must be honest with you, sometimes that despair is relieved for the entire time between mushroom trips, and sometimes the despair returns almost as soon as the day after my mushroom trip has ended. It depends on a lot of different things, some of which I can figure out logically, and some of which I don't have any idea whatsoever. But for me, just knowing that I'll be able to relieve that suffering and despair, even just momentarily, even if it's only for a day, that keeps me going through all of the misery of existence. On mushrooms, I rise above that misery, and I can see that the world is ultimately a good place. I can and will return to despair at some point after that mushroom trip and before my next one. It's the way I function. And knowing that I've risen above it often doesn't help matters when I'm wallowing in the despair and hopelessness. The fact that I rose above it in the past doesn't help me very much in the moment that I've fallen back into the misery. The misery is too overwhelming for it to matter. Who cares that I once felt good and inspired when right now I'm in what feels like never-ending misery? But knowing that I'll get there again helps. It's not just thinking I will or hoping I will. Mushrooms work for me. So it's not just a thought or a hope, it's a certainty. It is absolute knowledge. It's a fact. And that's why I do the tripping channel. I know hopelessness and despair very intimately. And even now I still experience it. Mushrooms will not be the answer for every single person. There are people for whom it will do nothing. I've met them. But they work for me. And they work for a lot of other people. So if you are suffering from depression or another mental illness, they very well may help you too. You need to at least try them and find out. That's why they need to be legal. Well, I think I may have gone a little bit off track there. I was, these are supposed to be reasons to not kill yourself. Well, I hope you found at least one or two in there that you agree with. Whew. I hate life when I'm not on mushrooms. Not all the time, but a lot. The despair and the hopelessness that my DNA insists I go through. It's a nightmare. Mushrooms are the only thing that help. They're not like other drugs. Other drugs that are synthetic or produced in a laboratory. They'll give you temporary relief, but then you'll spiral into a very unhealthy pattern. Mushrooms are the only drug that I know of that's the opposite. The more you take it, the healthier you become. And if you are suffering from a mental illness like I do, please try it. Oh, then that begs the question, where do you find them? Well, that's the hard part. Because they're, illegal. And even in places where they're legal, they seem to be a little bit illegal. So we're on our own right now. So I'll try to guide you through your mushroom experience the best way that I know how. But I'm not a medical authority. I'm just a stupid asshole who doesn't know anything. And if you follow my advice, it is at your own risk. I will try my best to make sure that your mushroom trip is as safe as possible. All right. Anyway, we were talking about suicide and despair, and well, you got it. It was in there, right? Hey, by the way, I'm Shroom Daddy, and this is the Trippin' Channel.